Good morning, everyone, and thank you for everyone watching on Facebook Live and those listening or watching the podcast after today. We're so grateful to have Dan Purjes on our podcast and to give him a platform to share his important work and his views regarding plant-based eating. Here's a little bit about Dan before we begin. Dan is a businessman, entrepreneur, and now author. He has built many businesses from startup to profitable revenues before selling them to larger corporations, and he has since gone on to grow several types of successful businesses from digital printing to software to solar energy. Today, Dan devotes much of his time to the Purjes Foundation, the nonprofit charity founded by him and his wife, and he not only provides funds for worthwhile causes, particularly those involving health, but he takes an active role in those causes. He served on the boards of numerous national and local charities such as the American Tinnitus Association, the Abraham Fund, the Plantation Project, Plant-Based Utah, and others. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. So I guess we're just going to jump right in. I have a couple of questions for you. And the first one is just for you to tell us a bit about your journey to a plant-based diet.
Sure. In about 10 years ago, I had a heart attack, and I was treated at a hospital in New York City. They opened up my artery, coronary artery, and put in a stent and held me overnight for observation. And while I was in the hospital overnight in the ICU, I was watching CNN and saw Bill Clinton, former President Clinton, being interviewed by Dr. Sanjay Gupta, the house doctor, so to speak, at CNN. And he noticed that Clinton had lost 30 pounds. And he quite a bit of weight. And he asked him what was behind that. And Clinton told him that, well, after he left the White House, he had had quadruple bypass surgery because he had severe chest pains. The surgery cleared up the chest pains, and everything was fine for a number of years. But then the pains came back. And when he went back to his cardiologist, they told him that given the nature of his surgery and events that had taken place afterwards, there was nothing further they could do for him. He was out of options. And so he began to investigate what, if anything, could he do to improve his health. And he came across a wonderful book called Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. So there's a lot of books out there about preventing heart disease, but this was also about reversing heart disease. He read the book, and the book is by Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, who's a legendary physician in the plant-based world. And the book pointed out how if someone converts to a whole food plant-based lifestyle, their cholesterol will go way down, and triglycerides will go way down, blood pressure will go way down, all the biomedical markers will improve significantly in a relatively short period of time. We're talking in a matter of weeks. And so Clinton went on the diet. He said he basically said, I lost 30 pounds in 90 days. And he said, I feel like I'm a teenager. I haven't felt this good since I was 16. Now, here I am in the hospital, having just had a heart attack, having had a stent implanted. My wife was on First Avenue in New York, looking for a place where she could buy vegetarian food, because I'd been a vegetarian almost my entire life. And I thought being a vegetarian would protect me from the ravages of heart disease, but it obviously hadn't. I was blown away when I heard this interview. I called my wife on a cell phone. I said, forget the food, get the book. And she went to Barnes and Nobles. She got the book. She came back to the hospital. the two of us read it together, and it was like a light bulb that went on for me, because even though I was vegetarian, I was not vegan. So I was eating a lot of cheese, eggs, processed foods, oils, all sorts of stuff that was not healthy, and especially not healthy for my cardiovascular system. Both of us immediately converted. By the time the daylight came, the dawn broke, we were both confirmed vegans, whole food, plant-based vegans. And that was the beginning of our journey. And we've never looked back. And that's how it began.
Excellent. Very nice to hear. I had a very similar kind of start where I was also vegetarian for almost my whole life and was having health issues, and the vegan diet, I have never felt better. So
I came across an article about Dr. Brooke Goldner. So Brooke urged people to look her up online. You'll find a lot of articles about her, and her website, unless she's changed the name, her website was goodbyelupus.com. She, as a teenager, came down with a severe advanced form of lupus, and also kidney disease, and also a disease that causes blood to coagulate and cause strokes, mini strokes. She was very fortunate. She had a couple of strokes, but no permanent damage. And she became a whole food. She also was vegetarian her whole life, but her parents owned a Domino's pizza franchise. And so she ate a lot of pizza, and that was my downfall. I ate pizza almost every day for lunch. And, the doctors in Brooke's case put her on some very strong medications. Lupus is, they diagnosed her with lupus, and lupus is an autoimmune disease. And the standard treatment of care is for autoimmune disease is cancer chemotherapy drugs and steroids to reduce inflammation. So here she's taking these awful, horrible, toxic drugs to put her immune system into suspension, to stop attacking her own body. And she goes to medical school, graduates medical school, and by pure happenstance, she ends up becoming a whole food, plant-based vegan, and all her conditions disappear, totally disappear. In fact, she was young then. She was about 28 or 29, something like that. She was a resident at a hospital in California, Los Angeles, and her doctor could not believe that all the biomarkers for these 4 different autoimmune diseases that she had contracted had all disappeared. And one of the doctors even thought that she maybe was lying when she said she had lupus, because they never disappear. These disease markers don't disappear. But if you treat your body right and you give it the right nourishment that it needs and avoid giving it toxic foods, toxic substances, the immune system will take care of your body and it will clear up these diseases for the most part. Simple.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
So I did want to hear a little bit about your book that you recently released and what you hope to achieve with it.
So a few years ago, it occurred to me that I had come across many, many stories in various publications, websites, and so forth, presentations about people who had reversed all kinds of diseases. And I mentioned Dr. Goldner before. I reached out to her, spoke to her, asked her at that time, this is a few years ago, She was already treating a lot of people for many different kinds of diseases, lupus, Sjogren's, asthma, on and on. And I asked her how many people had she treated, and she said a few hundred. And I asked her how many of them reversed their disease, and she said all of them. Well, this was astounding to me. I asked her to introduce me to some of these patients, and she did, and their stories were remarkable. I mean, there's one of the first people she introduced me to was a 30-year-old man who had suffered a horrible form of lupus that attacks the skin and led to horrendous infections that the doctors could not control. He was intubated in the hospital. The physicians there wanted to amputate several fingers and possibly a leg because they could not control these infections. And fortunately, his mother refused to give permission for these amputations. And shortly after that, she happened to meet Dr. Goldner. And Dr. Goldner told her that Dr. Goldner had reversed lupus completely. And this was like my savior, right? A miracle. And Dr. Goldner began to work with her son. And within a few weeks, 90 days or so, the lupus was all his afflictions were basically reversed. Now, I met with him, and he told me his story firsthand. I asked him if he was still on any medications. He said no. I said, do you have any symptoms? He said, no, none. He's living a perfectly normal, healthy life. He was on death's doorstep. And he said, he thought for a moment and he goes, oh, wait a minute, I do have one more thing left, he said. And I said, what's that? And he says, well, I lost my hair from the treatments that I had. I still have a small bald spot. Let me show it to you. And it was about the size of a quarter. And that was it. I mean, these are amazing stories. They sound like miracles, but they're not miracles. And I've seen it again and again and again in all kinds of diseases, diabetes, lupus, panic attacks, I mean, across the spectrum. And I realized that there was no one book that people could go to where there were a bunch of these many diseases that were reversed. And I thought it would be worthwhile to have such a book, and especially to have people tell their own story in their own voice, because that's authentic. And so immediately I approached Dr. Scott Stoll. Scott is an amazing physician. He is the co-founder and chairman of the Plantrician Project. And Plantrician Project is probably the world's largest organization of whole food, plant-based physicians that are interested in promoting that lifestyle for reversal and prevention of disease. I think they've got close to 20,000 physicians in their network. And I approached Scott with the proposal that we write this book together. And he immediately said, yes, let's do it. We started to collect stories of all different kinds. And over time, we wrote the book. But we really didn't write the book. The book was written by the people who tell their stories. That's the central part of the book. Scott and I wrote additional chapters explaining what the whole food plant-based lifestyle is like and why it works so well and so forth. But the book is really the stories that people present.
Yeah, great. Awesome to hear. Where can people find this book if they want to pick it up? You can
find the book on Amazon or other leading bookstores. Amazon, and we also made a film documentary, which is called, so the book is called Disease Reversal Hope, Real People, Real Stories. And then we have the film, which is simply titled Disease Reversal Hope, the film. And both are available on Amazon. Apple iTunes has the film, carries the film. I think it's also on YouTube. So there are various outlets for the film. And the book is, I know it's on Amazon and a few other places.
Okay, great. I'm excited to share that with people. Okay, well, my last question for you is, how do you think we can best influence our society to go towards a more plant-based diet?
I'm sorry, ask that again, please.
Yeah, how do you think we can best influence our society towards a more plant-based diet?
Well, I don't think there is one singular way. There are many ways. One of them is to get people to hear the simple message that you don't have to be sick and you don't have to take drugs or surgeries or other procedures to get healthy. What you have to do is get your body healthy so that it can do its work to get you healthy and reverse disease. Unfortunately, we live in an age where people seek instant gratification. Give me a pill to make me better. And this is not a pill. There's no secret potion. I can tell you, for example, people ever since the dawn of man, people have been looking for the secret to youth, to maintaining youth, to remaining young. I will tell you that a whole food plant-based diet will keep you young. You will look younger, you will feel younger, you'll be healthier. That's the fountain of youth, but it's not a pill. And people want a pill. So we need to understand that things that are worthwhile because we have to make the effort and put in the hard work to make them worthwhile. Right?
Very good. Very well said. Well, that is all I have for you as far as questions. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we close out?
No, just that I wish everybody good health and happiness. It's out there. It's available. Go for it.